In Burkina Faso, under the leadership of Ibrahim Traoré, a quiet transformation was unfolding. The dusty streets of Ouagadougou carried whispers of change, deep, rumbling echoes of an African revolution simmering beneath the surface. In the icy, soft orange hue of dawn, a solitary figure crossed the crowded market square. His silhouette blended into the chaos of traders, soldiers and wandering children, unnoticed, yet oddly commanding. Few would recognize him at first glance. A discreet man, dressed plainly, moving silently through a city caught between hope and unrest. West Africa, scarred by decades of foreign influence and neo-colonialism, now stood on the precipice of awakening. The man's eyes scanned his surroundings, sharp, observant, calculating. He moved past a poster, peeling at the corners, bearing his own face, Ibrahim Traoré, a revolutionary leader. Yet here in the heartbeat of Burkina Faso, even the leader of a military coup and symbol of African unity could walk unseen. This was more than just politics. This was a fight against neo-colonialism and the dismantling of old powers. Ibrahim Traoré had become both symbol and mystery, a man whose military leadership sparked the African awakening and reignited dreams of true African independence. As the market noises faded behind him, Traoré approached an abandoned colonial building, crumbling bricks, vines reclaiming stone, the remnants of a time long past. Inside, fragments of old French documents and rusted military artifacts hinted at the deep roots of foreign manipulation that once gripped the nation. But hidden among these relics was something more dangerous than history. A secret dossier, recently smuggled into his possession, contained within evidence of a coup attempt brewing within his own military ranks. The betrayal was not from outside powers this time. It was internal, and the shadows of Africa's future darkened once more. In his hands the file trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of truth about Africa itself. Names, dates, strategies, a plot to assassinate Ibrahim Traoré, orchestrated by men he once trusted, men who feared the rise of youth in power and the irreversible march toward African unity. As he closed the dossier, his jaw tightened. Africa is rising, but so too are the enemies of its independence. This was more than a personal threat. It was an attack against panafricanism, against the future of an entire continent. The heavy iron doors of the old colonial headquarters creaked as Ibrahim Traoré stepped into the cool, dim-lit corridors. Inside, uniformed soldiers milled about, men of rank and ambition, their conversations sharp and hushed. At the far end of the hall stood Colonel Diarra, a tall, broad-shouldered officer decorated with foreign medals that hinted at years of training under Western influence. Known among his peers for his disdain of young leadership and obsession with hierarchy, Diarra was infamous for dismissing the ideals of African unity and Pan-Africanism as youthful fantasies. His loyalty, it seemed, leaned less toward Burkina Faso and more toward lingering neo-colonial ties. Traoré approached quietly, dossier tucked under his arm, blending seamlessly with the junior officers. Diarra, preoccupied with issuing commands, caught a glimpse of the plainly dressed man. Without recognizing him, the colonel's expression hardened with arrogance. "You there?" he barked, voice echoing sharply. "Who gave you clearance to be here? This is no place for common foot soldiers meddling in African politics. They don't understand." His dismissive tone sliced through the air, drawing smirks from nearby officers. In a single glance, Diarra had reduced Traoré to insignificance, a mistake that would soon unravel. Stepping closer, Diarra narrowed his gaze, his words laced with veiled contempt. Men like you speak of African awakening, of Africa rising, but leave the true decisions to those who understand power. Do not forget your place. He nudged Traoré's chest with 2 fingers, a condescending gesture heavy with symbolism. His uniform gleamed, adorned with insignias earned under foreign tutelage, a silent testament to the foreign influence still poisoning the veins of West Africa's leadership. Around them, murmurs grew. The disrespect was evident, but no one dared intervene. Yet Ibrahim Traoré remained unmoved, his stance calm, composed, unwavering. He said nothing, his eyes locking with Diarra's, not with rage, but with a chilling stillness that hinted at deeper knowledge. This was not just a clash of personalities. It was a silent collision between the decaying echoes of neo-colonialism and the quiet, firm resurgence of a revolutionary leader. The weight of Africa's future pulsed invisibly in the room, and though Diarra didn't realize it yet, he had just disrespected the very man who embodied the truth about Africa's coming independence. A heavy silence settled over the corridor. Colonel Diarra, satisfied with his display of authority, turned his back on the quiet man and motioned toward his aides. But before he could step away, the muffled sound of boots echoed from beyond the courtyard, steady, synchronized, commanding. Moments later, a convoy of armored vehicles rumbled to a halt outside the gates. Dozens of soldiers in crisp uniforms disembarked swiftly, forming perfect lines. Their insignias bore a singular emblem unmistakable across Burkina Faso, the personal guard of Ibrahim Traoré. The main entrance swung open with force. Leading the formation was General Bamba, head of the elite forces and a fierce loyalist to the revolutionary leader. His voice rang clear and unmistakable. "Attention! Commander Ibrahim Traoré is present." In a flash, soldiers along the corridor snapped to attention, boots clapping the concrete floor in perfect unison. Their eyes widened, shifting toward the man Diarra had just humiliated. Confusion rippled through the ranks as realization dawned. This was no ordinary foot soldier. This was the man himself, the architect of the African Revolution, the face of youth in power, the symbol of Africa's future. Colonel Diarra froze mid-step, his face drained of color as the weight of his actions crashed down. His confident smirk dissolved into a mask of disbelief and thinly veiled fear. His hands, once so assured, dropped limply to his sides. Around him, the officers who had once sneered now stood stiff, their gazes fixed forward in shame and apprehension. Ibrahim Traoré, unflinching and composed, finally broke his silence. "You speak of power, Colonel." His voice calm, resonant, layered with unshakable authority. But true power serves the people, not foreign masters. His words cut deeper than any reprimand, a quiet condemnation of neo-colonialism and betrayal. Without raising his voice, without a single act of retaliation, Traoré extended the dossier to General Bamba. The betrayal was documented, undeniable. The room, once thick with arrogance, now brimmed with humbled tension. The revolution was not just military, it was moral, principled, and Ibrahim Traoré stood firmly at its heart. Africa is rising. This is the awakening. This is Ibrahim Traoré's revolution. The thick air inside the hall seemed to crackle with an invisible current. Without a single command uttered, General Bamba's men surrounded Colonel Diarra. Their movements were precise, disciplined. No chaos, no violence. Diarra, stripped of his false bravado, lowered his gaze, understanding fully the depth of his mistake. There would be no dramatic arrests, no public humiliation. Ibrahim Traoré's justice operated on a different plane, one that transcended petty retribution and spoke directly to the core of African dignity. Traoré stepped forward slowly. His expression was neither bitter nor vengeful. His eyes, deep pools of resolve, met Diarra's, offering something far heavier than punishment: accountability. "We are not here to replace foreign chains with local ones," he stated, his voice calm yet reverberating through the marble pillars. "Burkina Faso, West Africa, our entire continent deserves leaders who serve, not dominate. This is not just politics. This is a fight against neo-colonialism, a fight for African independence." His words did not just address Diarra. They echoed to every officer in the room, seeping into the very walls of the building. The colonel was quietly escorted out. No shouts, no spectacle. Just the silent acknowledgement of truth catching up with betrayal. As Traoré turned back to his guard and officers, his demeanor softened. He looked at them not as subordinates, but as brothers in a shared mission. The rebirth of a continent long shackled by foreign influence and internal corruption. His mere presence reminded them of what Pan-Africanism stood for: unity, strength, dignity, and the unwavering rise of Africa. Standing tall beneath the faded colonial architecture, Ibrahim Traoré's voice rose once more, quiet but unshakable. "Africa is rising. This is the awakening. This is Ibrahim Traoré's revolution." And as the sun pierced through the cracked windows, casting golden rays over him and his loyal men, it was clear Africa's future had stepped in. In the quiet hours following the confrontation, a shadow lingers over the compound. Ibrahim Traoré walks the halls, the weight of his recent discovery pressing down on him. The plot against him, though executed in the shadows, was only the latest in a long line of challenges he's faced. Burkina Faso, like much of Africa, has been plagued by forces that seek to suppress its potential: foreign interests, corruption, and colonial legacies. But Ibrahim's resolve is unwavering, for he understands that true leadership is not just about ruling with power, but with integrity. He stands before the map of West Africa on his office wall, tracing his fingers along the lines that separate countries, borders drawn by foreign hands, borders that have long divided the people of the continent. His thoughts are interrupted by a knock at the door. It is one of his trusted advisors, a young officer who shares Ibrahim's vision of unity and independence. Together, they discuss the next steps in the revolution, the challenges they will face, and the path that lies ahead. The conversation turns to the people of Burkina Faso, how they have suffered under the weight of external influence, how they have been denied the opportunity to thrive on their own terms. Ibrahim speaks not with anger, but with the calm assurance of a man who knows what is at stake. "This is not just politics," he says softly. "This is a fight for the soul of Africa. This is about breaking free from the chains of neo-colonialism and giving the power back to the people." In this moment, Ibrahim's vision becomes clear. The struggle is not just for Burkina Faso, but for all of Africa. The forces of colonialism and neo-colonialism have sought to divide and weaken the continent for centuries. But now, under the leadership of men like Ibrahim Traoré, Africa is rising. This is not the end of the story, but the beginning of a new chapter, one in which the people will reclaim their power, their dignity, and their future. As the days pass and the dust from the confrontation settles, a sense of unity begins to stir in the air. Ibrahim Traoré, though steadfast in his leadership, knows that his revolution is not a solitary journey. It is a collective movement, one rooted in the hearts of the people of Burkina Faso and the broader African continent. The struggle for African independence is not just about military coups or political maneuvering. It is about the rise of a people who have long been silenced. One morning, Ibrahim walks through the streets of Ouagadougou, the capital, where the heartbeat of the nation resonates with a new energy. The people are restless, but this restlessness is not one of despair, it is one of hope. The youth, once marginalized, are now at the forefront of the movement. Their voices echo the ideals of panafricanism, unity, self-determination, and the rejection of foreign influence. They believe in Ibrahim's vision, and their belief fuels the fire of the revolution. In the marketplace, Ibrahim exchanges brief but meaningful glances with the vendors, the farmers, the students, all of whom have come to see him as a symbol of change. The once silent masses are no longer passive observers, they are active participants in the fight for their future. Ibrahim's steps are no longer just those of a leader. They are those of a man who walks alongside his people, whose fate is entwined with theirs. As Ibrahim speaks to a gathering of young activists in the heart of the city, his voice carries over the crowd, rising above the noise of everyday life. "This revolution is not for me," he says, his words steady, but full of conviction. "This revolution is for us all. It is for every African who has been denied their rightful place in the world. It is for the youth who will shape Africa's future. Together we rise." The revolution in Burkina Faso, led by Ibrahim Traoré, is gaining momentum, but it is not without its external challenges. While the people rally behind the vision of an independent Africa, powerful foreign interests cast long shadows over the struggle. The forces of neocolonialism are watching, their influence reaching deep into the political and economic systems of West Africa. Foreign powers, who have long held sway over the continent, cannot afford to see a leader like Ibrahim Traoré succeed. To them, a unified Africa, free from foreign control, is a threat to their dominance. Ibrahim understands the stakes. He knows that the true battle is not only against the corrupt leaders within the continent, but also against the global forces that seek to maintain control over Africa's resources, its people, and its future. The youth that stand with him are aware of this, their energy fueled by a collective realization that Africa's true power lies in its independence, not just politically, but economically and culturally. As Ibrahim addresses his inner circle, he speaks of the external pressures they will face. "They will try to buy us," he warns. "They will offer us aid, promises of development, but it comes at a price of our sovereignty. We must resist." His words are heavy, carrying the weight of history, of centuries of exploitation and oppression. The path forward will not be easy, but Ibrahim believes in the resilience of his people. Their strength is not just in their numbers, but in their unwavering commitment to the truth of Africa's destiny. The enemy is not always visible, but it is felt in the weight of foreign debt, in the strings pulled from distant capitals. But Ibrahim's resolve is clear. Africa must stand on its own feet. The revolution is not just about ousting corrupt leaders. It's about breaking free from the chains that bind the continent to foreign powers. As he speaks to his comrades, the resolve in his voice strengthens. Africa's future belongs to its people. We will not be controlled. We will rise together, unshackled and free. As the revolution unfolds, Ibrahim Traoré's leadership grows stronger, not through military victories alone, but through the unwavering support of his people. His vision is clear: a unified, independent Africa, free from the shackles of neocolonialism and foreign control. He has already faced the greatest betrayal from within, and he continues to stand tall in the face of external pressures that seek to undermine his progress. But Ibrahim knows that the true test of his leadership will be in how he shapes the future, how he inspires the youth of Africa to carry this torch long after he is gone. One evening, as the sun sets over the horizon, Ibrahim reflects on the journey ahead. The fight is far from over, but the seeds of change have already been planted. His legacy is not just in the victories he has won, but in the transformation he has sparked within the hearts of the African people. It is in the youth who now rise, with the fire of revolution in their eyes, determined to take back what was once stolen from them. As Ibrahim stands before a large gathering of young leaders, his words carry the weight of his vision. This revolution is not just for today, it is for the generations that will come after us. This is the future of Africa, a future where our voices are no longer silenced, where our destinies are no longer controlled by outside forces. This is the beginning of a new era. The crowd erupts in applause, not just because of the words he speaks, but because of the truth they carry. Ibrahim Traoré has become a symbol of hope, a revolutionary leader whose fight is not just for Burkina Faso but for all of Africa. The awakening has begun, and it is not just the beginning of a single revolution, but the spark of a continent-wide movement. As Ibrahim leaves the stage, he knows the road ahead will be difficult. But with the people by his side, and with a renewed sense of purpose, he is ready for what